for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. As always, I want to extend this video and go much deeper, even deeper than in the previous one. That's why I'm here. That is why those of you on the Illumined Union path are here, watching steadily and considering and applying the principles of which I talk about, of which we talk about here. So, as you know, throughout the years of my work, I've been mentioning divine law quite a lot. And today, I want to talk about this legacy here on Earth because it's not as understood still, as of now, as maybe perhaps in the ancient times and ancient of days, before all this knowledge and understanding went to sleep. Some of you know the book called the Book of Enoch, and how the holy word of those who were the sinners and the transgressors and the fallen ones and those who were true to God, and you know, all these royal ones, these beings that we know as illumined beings who are upholding the divine word or divine law of God in their creation and what they're creating and in their ways, each one having their own principles that they're upholding. A lot of this was once very deeply understood by those beings who were in what we call the ancient temple schools. And now, you know, in our modern day and age, as you know, everything was whisked away, wishy-washy realm of New Age. It was very deeply distorted. So we don't have many people turning to God and the real nature of what illumined design, illumined principles of life, and of course, Illumined Union is all about. Today I want to go even deeper. I want to talk about some of the pinpoints of Aurea's mission and her divine plan. And you know, in the recent words of someone to me, because sometimes people discover me and then they would say, oh, I wish more people knew you or knew about you and what this is all about. Because once you start awakening to the Lumen plan, it's like everything before feels like just like a bad dream. That's how it was for me in my life, at least. And the thing is that the mission that was set upon, you know, throughout my body, throughout my life, through this body, that was Aurea's plan, Aurea's mission, could only be achieved by me, no one else. So it's the same with anyone who has a divine illumined light legacy. Only they are the being who can achieve this particular mission, calling. So in those words, I would like to reply that, you know, those people who are meant to know me or come to me and understand me, they're very few, but these are the ones who are ready. You know, even among those people who tune into these videos, sometimes more, sometimes less, there's very few select ones who are actually paying attention and understanding what I'm talking about and applying themselves to that, okay? So I would say that, you know, sometimes people who are just first time awakening, they wish like everyone knew this and saw what they are seeing. But it's not done that way, as you well know, because everyone's time needs to come. And I have to tell you, just like, you know, people now, there's cycles of people who are still waiting for their chosen Messiah, that we know as Jesus the Christ, to return. Let me tell you, in the righteous nature of the true Lumen plan, no illumined being comes twice on the planet. Each illumined being has a specific template and essence that they're meant to carry forth and bring into the world of matter, the world of creation, which is kind of like their own legacy of God, which is what this current cycle needs. And that's a very personal mission of theirs. At the same time, their influence, their exuding nature goes out into the world, and it feeds into those souls who are ready. So those who are not ready will, of course, have to wait for the next cycle and the next illumined being. And at that particular portion of life, it won't be me. It won't be Aurea. It will be another being, right? That's just how life moves in continuation and creation. Because once I finish my work, once Aurea finishes her work through me, her vessel, her embodiment, she will go on to the next set of trail that she has as her own individual being, sovereign being, mastery, and then moving onwards and upwards. It's just how it is. Like for me, what I've been tuning into recently, it's that one of the latest Aureas desires before she can finish and wrap up her things in this life through me is these were actually desires of my own longing heart, because in all my years of meeting so many people who came to me, not just like, you know, tuned into the videos, but people who had one-on-one sessions with me, people who wanted to go deeper, people who in any way, shape or form participated within the work, maybe followed it for a while and then went off and on and off. You know, everyone received as much as they're willing to receive and as far as they wanted to go. That's just how it is. But there's very few individuals who actually say, yeah, I'm the disciple of this path. I'm choosing this path and I know and recognize it to be my own just as well. These people are so rare. And I have to tell you, in all my years, in 10 years of this work since 2011, when I started up with Ascension Pioneers, and I was actually being prepared for it years back, gradually nudged in this direction and being told truths about myself that later expanded and became more than what I initially thought about this path to be. And then, you know, since that time, it's been 10 years actually, it's only now that I've met a person, a being who I recognized as a true disciple, right? And of course, it's another woman, because us feminines are almost like the embodiments of that translation of this Empress or true awakened goddess principle, which is the Christ feminine principle. So when we recognized each other with that being, all of a sudden, you know, the training began. So we were together each time, you know, the person was saying, I'm channeling in your presence, just like naturally tuned in. I'm so clear in your space. And I've had many people, you know, once they were in my presence and my energy, they felt different. And then they went away, they felt more like their old selves again. And it's just how this exuding golden white light works. And so in that manner, all of a sudden, I saw myself that this was one of the dreams realized through me by Aurea, that she meets a disciple of her own, which is the one she will pass all her knowledge to. And in the previous video, I talked about how this person had a vision of getting this baby. And this baby is that torch being passed on. Like all that I've birthed and cultivated in this life, it's not mine, you know, it's just something that I've already cultivated. I delivered it, and now this deliverance, I'm just going to pass it on to the next righteous one. These beings are the pure ones. They are the righteous one. They cannot have even one tiny ink spot left in their energy field. They have to be pure and open, because once this awakening begins to what true creation pillar wisdom is all about, you know, there's one thing you have to know is the level of the things I've been discussing with you here in these public videos. Then there's the next level, which is my Patreon work. We go deeper. Then there's one-on-one sessions with people. And then this, what I'm experiencing now, is something that I've never experienced on earth before as a being, as a presence in the body, is that all that I know that's just usually just been between me and spirit, it's something that just I knew how to tune into, which is all this portal mastery and wisdom that I hold. All of a sudden, this person brought into my life, totally open, you know, they went on this journey and they entered into their own activation point and their portal. And as we connected, I started giving them these tiny little inklings of guidance to understand, to better understand this. But they're going to, of course, do the work on their own. But I've had this vision, yeah, this is the one you will train with. This is the one you will pass it on to. And suddenly I've gotten so happy, because this was my lifelong desire. I thought maybe, well, maybe we'll be a group, you know, because even in her vision, she was the one to receive the baby, and then everyone else received their baby. So it's almost like it begins with one. It is enough to pass the baton to one, and then it will keep on expanding and growing. And in most of these people's paths, it's usually the world as they knew it before, and this totally different entrance. This totally different entrance point, right? Because you have to know something that I've been discussing with you here for years. Matrix is this, what I always call, it's the looping, encircled reality that is constructed. And because until the point that as a human, you're still holding a level of illusion. I don't know how many of them. People have different levels and stages of how deep their illusions are. And until your virtues are not refined and become higher divine virtues of life, as God is giving life forward, and nothing belongs to you truly, and all you do is your focus to God and serving God. There can be no You know, you still have your human desires, but they're not going to be prevailing. It doesn't mean now you have to become a person of, you know, renunciation. Like you have to renunciate your life and be a hobbit, you know, like a hobo. No, it means that all of a sudden these divine virtues are becoming more and more prevalent and self-prevailing in your life, and they're more enticing and pulling you in. They're magnetically drawing you in into this path than those human desires. Human desires are there for you to just basically live your human life, because you do have a human body and the work you're doing is here in this level, in the physical. But these illumined desires are more and more building around you and within you and inviting you in. And I've never met a person who've actually really so quickly moved on to the path and like engulfed it all and said fully with all of their being, said yes. And I was told a while ago that, you know, when this happens, I would recognize the being, because as they would recognize me, I would recognize them in turn. But there was a training for my own personal human self throughout these years, because for a long time, because I've had this hope. And I had to tell you, my path through this was the path for understanding the feminines. And a lot of the feminine energy I met in this realm, in this world, was very comparison-like, you know, backstabbing. First appealing very friendly, and then, you know, you're seeing they just want what you have, and they kind of want what you appear to be without the true substance that's behind you. That's not the reality of what I'm here for, my beloveds. You know, I've met people like that, and people have been trespassing onto my kingdom, onto my realm where I lived. People have been stalking me, all these things, because these people were basing themselves on ego. They were based in ego consciousness, which is having, give me, need, greedy, right? Greedy little children. Because with this path, you have to be completely open, transparent, and patient. It's not going to come all at once. Like even me, look, it took me 10 years, and I'm Aurea's direct incarnation, and it took me 10 years to pile up this wisdom and to understand what portal mysteries are about, how to work with portal. You know, as creation beings, we hold this portal mastery, and to one day, when this is complete within me, because I no longer physically need to go to my portal, because I embodied it completely, because portals are for us to embody those beings who are going to be portal masters on their own, you know, and they're going along this path. But I was very much feeling this deprivation and solitude in a way, because there was something lacking. There was missing this crucial ingredient to pass this on. And people had been always telling me, well, you should write a book and do this and do that. You know, my beloveds, what I have within me is a self-birthed essence. It's not something you can copy, paste, and put into a book. It's beyond what words can hold and contain. And my truest desire in this life, besides everything I was doing, is to pass this on directly. When someone is sitting in this wisdom, in this essence with you, and they're feeling it, and they're going through it, and they're knowing exactly what's about. And all you need to do is kind of like nudge them in the right direction. And this is what happened for me now. And I'm like so stoked. I'm really thrilled, because it's something I've been yearning for such a long time, to pass this on directly, because a book is a medium and any sorts of passing of information is indirect. But I yearn for this this direct transference of this consciousness. And so when this mashup, this meetup happened between me and this individual, it was just pure magic. And I knew, yeah, that's the one. And I envision always there to be a group, but Spirit said, no, you need to only pass on to one, and then it spreads, because even the person received guidance on their own, that there's many more like that, many more like them. And it's all up to me as a part of Aurea's completion in this life to pass this on to the one, the chosen one, just as I was chosen as the only one who complete my portion of what God wanted to do as his work through me, right, through Aurea's consciousness and my physical human conduit for this life, for Polona's life. And it's the same going to be with her. And I told that being, I said, you are just as chosen as I am, because what I was able to only complete myself was only mine through God. It was only entrusted upon me. Now you will do the same. You are chosen one for your activity of light. And I used to think there had to be more and many, and now I clearly saw no, you know, this was on my list, because the list of the things that each light being has and holds when they come to the planet, when they incarnate their consciousness, and it's not done directly via birth. You know, we all are birthed, you know, through the canal, the motherhood canal. But the light beings fuse consciousness with this body gradually. So for me, it started happening actually after year 2010, but especially strongly when I started, you know, my life here in these Alps, when I actually moved directly into my portal. And my portal is, as you know, in the Twin Lakes, and it super extends itself, and my mission work throughout time was to extend the portal. It's to extend its reach, its outreach, and it's not something you do as outside of you. I had to recognize this as an inside job, like I had to embody it. And a part of this is merging your essence fully with that place, because you entrust your light codes of a light being that you are with this power place, and the power place then entrusts you with their own codes. So it's kind of like an exchange that you can't mentally understand, but it's a feeling-based reality that only those who are in this path will understand. So I know this is a very one-on-one thing. This is not for everyone here as a general audience, but I want to talk about this as it's just a deep desire I have, not to be recognized or anything like that, but to kind of leave the trails. For once I'm gone, I just want the trail to be there for people who will also be of this path, to say, oh, that's me. Yeah, you know, kind of like in school when you're asked, you want to join a project, or do you have anything to, you know, to add here? And you go like, yeah, you raise your hand. And that's what I'm hoping this to turn out into. It's not for me to gain any sort of recognition. You already know I'm not for that, because, you know, sometimes people will tell me, how are you so unrecognized and unseen and, you know, so few followers? I did not come here to gain followers, my beloveds. I came here to do Aurea's work, which in a way has to be protected and hidden as well. So as you know, darkness serves the light, and darkness has been, yes, censoring my channel and my webpage and everything, but in a way it keeps those that are not meant to come there, you know, at bay, and it keeps them at distance, because then we would just have more troubleshooters, and we don't want that, right? God knows what he's doing. He, she, it. Source, the source of life. And so I'm extremely happy, because I'm seeing now Aurea's list of these things that she set up for herself in this lifetime through me to achieve, that the list is really nearing her ending, and I'm seeing it. So it's like, you know, it's like it was moved to this place. Remember that you are Aurea. For me, that started in 2013, right as I moved. It was so quick for me. It was just jumping into my portal. Everything came into being. The first year I've gotten my name. I was doing in a mirror, right? The visioning, the seeing in the mirror. And I've gotten it. I've gotten my beloved's name. I've gotten the spirit beings, Aurea, Aureon, as divine Elohim, and what they're creating. I've gotten everything, you know. I've channeled the drawings, the visions, the poems. I've done everything in these years of setting up the path internally from inside out. I've birthed my light quotient. I've birthed my essence in the physical form. I've literally emanated out. I've just sprung out of myself. And, you know, sorry, we have a chopper here because it's a busy day somehow today. I'm gonna put my microphone like this. There's disturbances in the air, that's all I'm gonna say. And as always in my life, it's like this on purpose whenever we have a light intelligence needing to come through. So after the work I've done, and you know, it was a part of it was this portal mastery work. I needed to activate the portal there, but activate myself and then embody the portal I've actually activated. And now light beings can come through this portal. They told me that once I returned last year. They said now light beings can move much quicker because of the work we've as one team, one group, we've set up there. And now many people, sorry again for this, many more people will, we're just gonna wait it out, okay? Because it is loud, as you know. Sorry guys, I had to interrupt that because the chopper was moving right through us. I don't know what they're having, some sort of exercises, whatever. Just in time, right? When I started talking about the portal and our work, this is always like this in my life. I always have interruptions when the most important things want to come out. So you at least get to witness this now today through me, with me. So anyway, the work we were establishing with that portal there was that many, many more light beings could come in and come through their claimed bodies. They claimed their bodies that they basically designed for themselves in this life. So for me, it was a pinnacle of this, you know, because once you achieved a certain work and there's nothing else left there, it feels kind of like void. For light being without a mission on the planet feels kind of, what will you do, right? For me, I cannot live a life that's not a life of spirit intelligence and life force intelligence and mastery all the time. I get bored. It's not for me. So naturally, it felt like there's something missing. And when this occurred, it's like naturally once you achieved something and you bring about this wholeness and fruition to it at a whole new level, like the last thing you can do is just pass it on, right? It's like what you manage to achieve and integrate within yourself, then the last remaining thing is just pass it on. So I cannot guarantee a peaceful environment today due to the nature of the circumstances. First, there was this loud something and they were having there in the mountains. I don't know what. And then this chopper started coming in and out, on and off. It was peaceful for the time being. And then I started recording. There you go. You know, it is what it is. So I cannot guarantee peaceful environment. But I want to start speaking about something today, because you have to understand that the mission and purpose of illumined beings is more qualified to understand at the level of soul. So the work we do with many, many souls will be different. And so something I want to talk about is how these divine intelligences or divine essences, or sometimes we call them templates, are these illuminating aspects of God that actually have their place in every single dwelling. How to better explain this? Like in every single thing in life, there's always a higher intelligence behind it, right? So today I want to speak about this, enhance this through this tarot I recently got, which is called the Angel Tarot. These cards are very beautiful, and they're gold and white, just as I like them to be. And I want to show you some examples through some of the cards I've actually been getting through this deck. Because actually this deck cannot be used to, you know, I don't know, predict events, or, you know, I never use cards like this anyway. But these cards, they speak about these angelic essences or aspects of God or aspects of divinity that they have their own rightful place in life and creation. So you need to understand, like for an illumined light being, when you have a list of what was entrusted upon you through God, you have to complete that list or your mission is not final. So in the words of our Master Jesus in his book, Alpha and Omega, he said that only when he finished his part, he was able to say the words, "It is complete," and they were said on that mount, right? And we know his words, "It's done," or "It has been complete." And I know that the same thing is something that Aurea will say when all of her work is complete. And I'm seeing the list growing towards the end. But the last thing I want to talk about before we unravel the cards and give you some wisdom in how they work, and I would really advise them to all those of you seekers, you don't need to understand these angels or memorize their names, because some of them are really hard even for me. And I'm like, oh, Aurea's not on them, so there must be a screw up. Just kidding, guys. Anyway, wow, it's so loud today, truly. What I want to say is that it's like for each particular understanding that we sometimes see from our human perspective, there is a greater reenactment of something divine playing out at the soul level. So a lot of things that we don't see as humans, when you're able to see with the Lumen vision, you're going to be shown these through God. And only specific individuals we have this vision, because our vision is purified of illusions and we don't have those earth-based lower desires anymore. We've either never had them or we've totally surrendered them somewhere along our path. Like I've never even had them. And since I moved to my portal, the only desire was to know myself as a creation pillar, which were the words I received when I moved there. And my work began. That's when actually my life started gaining importance. Everything before that point in time was just for me to get to that point. And for a lot of you who have your lifetime, a lot of things you're living, they're not as important as when you get to that point of illumination, which is like radically, drastically changing your life for good. And so in the previous video, we've talked a little about Aurea's plan and the tree of life and all of that. But the biggest part of this plan with me as well as the human beloved was to meet up with my tantric twin. I've gotten his name years back, but as you know, these connections, what I call, or spirit calls, the tantric twin, they're very rare because they're born at the spirit level, because it's the Elohim design that moves into these beings. So they're beings who are basically the forerunners, they're the chosen ones. And for me, I was shown that our union is basically moving along and moving ahead, the union of many what people call the twin counterparts, the twin polarities that are now at these times coming together more and more in large numbers, even, so to say. But the thing is that our coming together was so important, and because of that, seeing the importance and how that would shift drastically this creation and its influence and impact in many beings on this path starting to awaken, especially the volunteers. It was, as you know, through my transgression, as a part of other things, it was counteracted, right? There was a transgression against this union. And I made actually this song. I sang the song. Maybe one day I'll share it with you, but not yet. And in the song, as I've listened to it again, it's everything's in it. It's an automatically channeled song, which means it's sung directly at spot. It's channeled through spirit. It's not written. It's not designed. It's not composed. And everything is, you know, in the song, how it's sung about these veils, and once the veils will part, and how what was once taken from me will now be righteously returned to me. And so when I now finally achieve back this locking point of quantum resonance and assembly with my, you know, who is my chosen one, and I always knew for me there's only one. Yes, people have many opportunities under soul growth, but that's a path of souls who are still in the evolutionary cycles. They can choose, right? Karmic, soulmate, this, you know, and they're choosing according to the level where they're at. Like for me, there was never any option, because we were the chosen ones, and we were the ones created through Aurea and Aureon's essence. But the thing was, the darkness worked very hard in convincing me that this doesn't exist. It's just a fairy tale. It's not real. It can't exist in this realm. But you know what? I thought to myself, if I can exist, and this kind of pure consciousness lives in my body, then how can it not live in a masculine's body, right? And I felt this being, I felt his presence up until the point of transgression, which is exactly the kind of counterintelligence that was used to hijack my portals. I could no longer connect to his energy. Like, we no longer had the telepathic communication, and it was distorted up until the point, like I told you, I was depressed and, you know, left thinking that it's just me now and all I have to do is just survive. And it took me 2 years of that survival mode of darkness, like pushing me like at the edge of everything, you know, even trying to put me at the edge of survival, also that I couldn't come in together with my beloved. But I will tell you something that God revealed to me through Aurea's wisdom, which is something that not everyone understands, because most people would then question, well, then where was God when this happened? Why didn't God prevent transgression, right? Why is then God like non-merciful for these beings, and you're only out there to serve? Yes, you know, we all have these questions. I've had it so long, and it's basically the darkness that got me to, at my darkest point of this transgression experience, got me to question even the nature of God. In the end, of course, God won, you know, and my natural intelligence through Aurea came through right in the perfect moment. But darkness is very tricky, and it will try to always lure you to be against God, to like say, yeah, well, God has forsaken you, so why are you even serving him? Go with us, you know, go the other way. And it's silly. It's actually moronic to do that to someone like me who has so much faith, you know. But the thing is, you have to know the very nature of God. God is in itself birther of everything. So even darkness is included in what we call God. So in order for darkness to eventually start shifting back, turning towards the light, God needs to give darkness some lessons. God needs to show darkness that God is beyond anything, right? So naturally, when I was chosen for this mission and transgression occurred for the first time, when it occurred, it was allowed by God. It was allowed because I guess God was the only one with the proper authority to foresee, like he foresaw that I would survive either way, and I would have so much assistance, and I was given much assistance. And yes, I suffered for 2 years from chronic pain and fatigue and exhaustion and depression and all of that, which before I never knew. I was always a beautiful child of God, just remembering my true organic purpose as a Lumen being on the planet, as a creation pillar. And yet God said, well, you know what? if the dark ones want to get this move, I will let them to have their move. But then once they're finished with their move, I will counteract their move and show them that anything they've tried to use against me and my divine servants, it will fail. And that's exactly what happened. But you have to know, God never allows these things to occur twice. So naturally, when I started this reconnection back with my tantric twin, I was scared. I was like, yeah, but what if darkness still hijacks our plan? Because I had this feeling this always had, there was like a spiraling nature to it. We were always supposed to meet at a very specific time frame, and then we didn't, and there was like, oh no, another year about, another roundabout, oh no, you know, it was very tough. And in the year 2019, me and my mother both received similar guidance in different wordings, but it was about, you know, I received the word Saving Private Ryan, and my mother received the words, come on, it's last seconds. We're saving him for the last seconds, and then they didn't manage because transgression already occurred, and I was pushed into a very low negative timeline. There was a timeline I never created for myself as a being. This has nothing to do with karma. People who are like, yeah, that's karmic, go away, because that's nothing to do with karma. Illumined beings are here to dispel and cleanse karma. So people who are very much ungrateful and they're disrespectful in that way, they have nothing to seek here in this channel with me anyway. They're supposed to move in their own way if they have such predicaments and judgments, because you have to know there is great honor and sacrifice that Lumen light beings perform in each of their incarnations. So people who are ignorant, they're just going against God, you know, like having their own versions of what happened. In case you don't know anything, no one knows anything that happened. It's only between God and these spirits, these light beings, who know, because they were the ones designing this plan. And I, as their human counterpart, am the one who receives directly what was happening. None of the people with elder opinions, right? So there's still people like that, because all they know is black and white. They don't understand. They're not Illumined beings. They're not advanced light beings who actually know how to operate with these missions. They don't know. They're just, you know, wording out their own opinions. And that's fine. I really don't care. I'm here for those beings who are actually going to continue the legacy. And that's what my videos are here, and what they're aimed towards and who they're aimed towards. So as a human, of course, naturally, I had a difficulty in understanding this and why I had to suffer so much just to end up alone and then go back home. If you remember, a few months back, I even started talking about, well, Aureas Ascension, which of course it's inevitable. But I thought it will be more of an isolated story. And, you know, the things I once believed in and felt this being as my Lumen twin counterpart, this tantric twin, it felt like it's never going to happen. Because now I'm in a different timeline. I just have to face the facts. You know, that's how I was for many months. I was like, okay, gotta face the facts. This didn't happen. Okay, we're now at this timeline. Just gotta have to work with what's given. You know, gotta make lemonade out of lemons. But then all of a sudden, when I surrendered something that was very difficult for me to surrender just recently, but I accepted it at every single human level. And that's when my final judgment came. That's when all my answers came, because I was willing to surrender any bit of that human association, like my mental acknowledgement of what was really happening, and surrender it to God and say, you know, I don't know what was happening. I clearly don't see everything. And then the moment I surrendered it, I really gave it to God. That's exactly the same moment that was like a spark of lightning went off, and all was like, like it was all revealed, like veils were just being pulled. And any last remnants of that transgression, which was very illusory and dark, was kind of just leaving me and my body and my entire space. And this whole vision was shown. And just tonight, actually, it was good news, because my mother actually had a dream. And in the dream, it was a knowing kind of dream. It wasn't like pictures and random images, which can be distorted and hijacked, as you well know. Everything visual can be hijacked. But it was that knowing dream in which my team was letting her know that they're now exactly at the point of working for us to meet and reunite and follow the plan. Because the thing is, this is not something I have to work for, because I've worked for it. I was already there in 2019. I was like at the verge of that happening, and then transgression happened. That's what they said, we're catching it for the last seconds, you know, and they couldn't. Even the way I came to the planet in this lifetime, they get me out of my mom's belly in the last seconds, because that's my life story. Everything we do, everything that happens and my team does, we're doing it in the last seconds. But they always say we kind of managed to pull through anyway. Even with transgression, it wasn't as bad as it could, you know, I still survived. And now they wanted to prevent this timeline, which is a very high Elohim chosen timeline. So it didn't succeed. And that's what I was revealed, that this was the plan of God all along. Because God first gave darkness a chance It said, look, you can do that, but you will mourn over yourself because you're not going to win. And it didn't. So darkness first, it was given a chance to withdraw, and it didn't. It did the transgression anyway. And then God stepped up, and I was given all the assistance. It took a while, right? It didn't just take a minute. It took much longer. But everything was sort of given as this assistance, and other agreements were formulated so that at the end I could get to this passing and reconnect again with the golden infinity loop and meet our timeline again, right? It was like being on the trail again. That trail was already set upon by me. I didn't have to go and start at the beginning, right? When I was doing the pulsar, I was already at 90%. But it didn't mean like, okay, now I have to start up with 0 again. Not at all, because that was already planted. The only thing I needed to do, because I already achieved that, was to align my physical body once again with that which was already planted in my body, which was 90% of illumination. And now these last few percents are that which gets me to the union, actually. And it's a beautiful unfolding. It's really not easy, but it is what it is at this point. And the guidance is signaling in that direction. So today, I want to reveal to you when I asked God about, I asked God about this, about the beloved, right? What we're actually talking about here, because we had these feelings like this is already there. This was already established. It was just stolen. It was hijacked. And look what came through. I'll give you an image, an example of these cards. What came through was the King of Cups presented as the angel Rochelle, which is described as God seeing everything. And the words, the keywords are restitution. And you have to read the translation, the literal translation of the word restitution is giving back something that was stolen to its rightful owner. Finds stolen objects and discovers the person responsible. But it also finds that which you were missing all this time, all along. And, you know, there's still fear in me for this final reunion to not happen because, you know, it was so difficult to get there, it passed. But this is something I've been teaching you in the last few videos, that God in the end, when darkness is given a chance, that everyone will be given their final move. This was this lifetime, this was this cycle. Everyone, even souls, right, who are about to choose, everyone was given one last shot to repent. And if they didn't, it's not going to be pretty for them. And so now God will have its final word. So I want to show you the next card, which was also very important because I asked, okay, then how do we meet? In what terms? Under what conditions? And God says, judgment, imamaya. I don't know how to pronounce that. And it says, God hidden in darkness. So God works through darkness as well, right? So darkness thinks, oh, we're actually winning, but it's actually divine judgment. And in the end, as I always say, God has its final word, because that's what the power of God is. When you work for God, everything can be given to you. You don't need to work to be rich and try hard, because darkness will try to convince us during our lifetime. You have to work really hard to get to that attainment. And in that working hard, you're going to lose yourself and the pursuit of God because you were working so hard. You forgot who you are in the first place anyway. That's where so many souls are right at this point, right? Working, toiling for the labor of the physical nature, the burden of Lucifer, right? And then they forget who they truly are. So here it says atonement of errors, which means the rightful return, right? Destroys the power of enemies and humiliates them. I love this because darkness needed to see, look, you don't mess around with the Lumen light beings because they serve God. So that means in translation, you don't mess around with God. Sorry, you know? And then I was asking God, well, show me then the image, the clear image of my beloved, because years back I've gotten this word for them, and not just their name, but I've gotten the word that they're a wizard, that they're like a wizard, and I saw them even like with their magician powers. So the card that came out today, no surprise, was the magician, Nithaya. And it says, the generous God, spiritual wisdom and magic, helps one gain wisdom and discover hidden secrets. And that's exactly something my mother and I have been talking about just recently. I said, we are a divine trinity. And my beloved, when he came through a mini transmission a while ago, he told my mother actually that together we make up a beautiful divine trinity, and we should focus on this tri-folded flame, this triunal flame within us. And I actually saw myself as being the power. He was the wisdom, my mom was the love. So that's beautiful. Also, the next card that came out, Two of Swords, right? Sometimes we see that as an impasse, unclear decision, but here it's like, you know, a resolution of something that in the end, like I said, God will find a way out of that, which is still unresolved. And it says, God, the Lord of all virtues, Amiel, and it says breaking the circle lifts opposing barriers, brings victory. Amazing. Okay. Okay, there's something else I want to talk about here. Oh, the last one regarding this beloved journey is, of course, what fell out of the lovers, Heniel. And it says the joy of God, joy and pleasure brings happiness to couples, removes negative energy. So the way you can work with these cards, I would really recommend them because I really like them. I don't like every single deck I got. Some of them are very superficial, but this deck is good. And the way you can use this deck actually is you can ask what kind of essence you can work with, what kind of template you can work each day, so you're not going to be surprised when something happens, because I told you before, don't take darkness lightly. Don't act like a fool, you know, opposing darkness. Just be very much faithful and loyal to God, that God knows what it's doing, but you also need to know what you're doing, because God cannot work through you if you're holding on to old belief systems and thinking, well, I know everything and I know what's right. Sometimes we don't at the human level. So a really well-rounded divine child, a pure birthed one, a Christ born in flesh, is the one that says, I really don't know. I don't know. God, please show me your higher perspective, because the moment ego steps out, God will give you everything. That's how it's been in me, with me my entire life. When I stepped out of my zone, I often wasn't right as well in my assumptions. So God was always showing me an even higher perspective, because I was willing to listen and pay attention. Even with the ego, we all have it. But an illumined being does not take that ego for granted, like, oh, the ego's just there, so what? No, you work around it. You need to work with it. You need to constantly move your life force through it. So at the end, there will always be this light of God that shines its way to, you know, make you lose those illusory beliefs and move beyond your ego beliefs that are really false, actually. So I've been asking about some other things, because there were some souls and participants in this and making this union possible for me. So there was an agreement with a specific soul. And when I was going through my human travel, sometimes I didn't see clearly for that soul. I'm not talking about the personality aspect now, but for the soul. And I asked God, like a few days ago, I said, okay, when I finally saw the bigger picture, what that soul actually assisted me with, there was an exchange, there was an equal give and take in realm of soul essence, because that soul contributed, it participated in this, and us coming together. But in earth, darkness and the devil kept on playing with me, thinking, no, they're actually against you, they're a player, they're you know, you don't see it. But actually, at the soul level, have chosen to be a supportive vessel. But I'm not going to see through it until I get the final answer. And the reason why it was bothering me so much, I kept digging for answers. I kept needing to know more and more and more until I got my final answer. And the answer I got, because I finally surrendered everything. I said, I don't care about the perspective of light and dark anymore. All I want to be is to be an open vessel for love, and let God show me what was the truth. You know what? I humbled myself before God, and it happened. I've gotten the truth, and now I feel nothing but love for the entire situation, for the entire unfolding. Yes, I was grieving for the entire week or so, because it wasn't just the grieving of what took place in the last year, but all this time, all the hijacking, all the errors, everything that was done against, just so that God could demonstrate to the darkness that it's not overpowering, that God is God and will remain God, okay? And everything was shown to me, nothing but humility. So then I asked myself this question, okay, God, what did this soul then gets in turn? In turn, as a reward, as an exchange for participating and being involved with us as illumined beings and a part of our plan, even though maybe they don't consciously as a person know about this. And God gave me this word, clemency. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, where's it? Sounded kind of, I don't know, biblical to me. I never read the Bible. So I went and checked out the word, and the word was mercy. And guess what? Today the star came out. That's Aurea. That's how I felt Aurea's love and her honoring. She was like, no, there's nothing but love here. Don't you get it? And the word is God, the just. And sometimes we as humans, we will not see the justice. You will not see the justice playing out until the very end, until that final move. You know, in the previous video, I talked about that final move. And that final move was that there was still an inner indecision in terms of my humanness, how to perceive the situation. I didn't yet have the whole vision, what took place behind the scenes. And then once I did, it was like, oh, and then everything dissolved. No more confusion, right? No more seven of what was the seven of water, seven of cups, confusion. unwillingness to choose because of that illusory state. The darkness was really trying hard to put their own say in it. And so this is the star. This is that starlight. For me, that's Aurea. Personally, that's me as Aurea. And you see the same word, clemency. It says right here, clemency and equilibrium protects against attacks in the courts. So what God said to me was like, that person is actually born under a lucky star. They don't know, because only their willingness to participate in this unfolding, they've chosen to root for you in that way, not consciously being aware of it, you know, just being their own person self, right? But at the soul level, they knew. And because they were brave enough to take that chance, they actually have gotten an ultimate protection. And God said to me, in this lifetime, that soul will not be hijacked by the darkness. They might experience darkness, of course. We all need to, because we need to go through a training. But I felt Aurea fighting for that soul for a very long time, because I felt darkness. They wanted to hijack it because it's a juicy soul. It's a very beautiful soul. And darkness wants to have a collection of beautiful souls, right, in their midst, to use their light for their own intentions and purposes. Right? That's why they choose all the good ones, you know. And I'm not saying not everyone is a good one, but you know what I mean. There are specific beings who, even though in this lifetime they don't seem to be doing something special or whatever, but there's this love light within them that's still powerfully burning. And until that fire is still burning and it's not completely put out, the darkness cannot get you. And so God showed me that Aurea's love will always be now around this individual and this being and this soul, actually. And this soul will get this, what it says here, clemency, right? And equilibrium, protects against attacks in the court. So when I started using these cards, they were helping me to get even bigger and bigger vision. So if you're guided, take those cards, Angel Tarot, gold and white. Then I had more questions. I asked, what did Aurea help this specific individual with in exchange, in turn? And the word was hahasaya, haha, 9 of Wands, and it says God, the impenetrable secret. And it says universal medicine, right, healing, elevation of the soul, and the revelation of mysteries. So it's almost like there was a coming together. There was this whole roundabout perspective, and that soul will be able to elevate itself in its perfect timing when they choose it. But all the assistance went there, and I could feel it this entire time. I could just feel like it had this deep care. It wasn't just for me, but there was a little bit of that mistaken reality when I thought it's just about this, but then it was, no, it was about this. It was about the beloveds. It was about us all the time. But in the midst of things, that's how light beings are. There was this whole other project as well included. And this last one, I asked, what about this darkness, right? Can they still harm, and, you know, the individual, and, you know, those, because we have these agreements, right? It's something for you to understand how, once you bond yourself to a light being, you yourself as a soul, you kind of are given this bravado. You have like this, you reach this more elevated state than if you just passively said no and looked the other way. Not every soul is as brave and courageous, you know, like my mother was in this life, to birth me and to live with me all these years and to have all the difficulties that I had to withstand and go through them with me. And she was assured ascension in this life after many, many lifetimes she's had here on earth. And it's assured for her because of all the work and her sainthood that she's achieved here. So you have to know these things of the higher nature, they're all real. But on earth, we often don't see them because we're so enmeshed in the physical, right? So we can't see. We're spinning in the wheel, and there's the golden gate is always there. The golden gate of ascension is always there. But not many souls are brought forth to that because they're still so focused on lower virtues, exploring the human realm, exploring darkness even, all these things, right? Tricks and treats. Trick or treat, right? So this one, Hahaya, speaking about how to protect against darkness, whether they still have a chance to win over these souls, even though they were kind of like in agreement with us. It says God, the refuge, and it says refuge. You know what that means? Like a safe house, a safe space. Remember when my friend saw a being who was looking at TVs and TV screens, but at the same time they were kind of moved like a bird moved them in a bag towards a tree. They were moved to a safe space unknowingly, unawareingly, but that was an exchange of of offering for that gratitude. And it says, governs dreams and reveals mysteries hidden from mortals. And sometimes maybe that being, when they're ready, they would see or they would get a revelation or answer in their dream time. And they would have to pay more attention to that as well. So the last one is as well related to all this darky stuff. Four of Cups, Melahel or Melahel, I don't know. It's the God deflecting evil. And it says healing capacity, protection from weapons, safety, and travel. So what's the ultimate travel? It's not the travels we do on earth, but it's the way that the soul can safely travel throughout this vast universe and not be hijacked or, you know, stopped by any other forces that are not chosen through the nature of God. They no longer serve God, as you know. So in my journey on earth as Aurea's descendant here and ascending and helping so many individuals to ascend and remember who they are, and many volunteer souls, in turn I get to experience how it is to be an illumined being on earth, how to have all this knowledge that it's not just written in books, but I'm the one experiencing all these things. I was the one gaining victory in so many things. I haven't told you my miracle yet. But you know what happened when we wrote that complaint to the courts? Not to the courts, but to the financial, right? The tax agencies. We've poured our heart out, but mostly through the prayer work I did. And in those 3 days of prayer to the aspect of God that is the Father, then God that is the Mother, and then God that is the Christ, and all living beings, all living men and women. And recognizing that, remember, even though there's a matrix, there's still the flame that lives in every one of the humans still alive and breathing that flame. Until that last spark of that flame goes off, we still have love. We still have things moving, and God can still use those beings as conduits for His desired plan. And what happened, I've poured all my heart out. And in the prayer, my most used words that I used, I can't recreate it because I was so in that moment. But I only asked God for one thing. And I spoke from my Aurea's intelligence, and I said, God, I've done everything for you to serve you, and look, I'm in this mess now. I'm not asking to receive something for, you know, to gain the money back. I'm not attached. I said, but there was an injustice. This didn't happen. We weren't informed. They tricked us. They fooled us. Darkness did everything in their power. And they've put us on the verge of survival because of that. And now I ask you, beloved God, who is the Father, to return that dignity back to us, to return that noble dignity that through which we've served you all these years and all of our lifetime. What happened? I'm not sure whether this was just what people call a miracle. No. We've created it. Aurea's created it. Aurea's done many miracles through me as well. Throughout the years, I've never even talked about them because it's not something I like to boast about. As much as difficult my life was, she still and always remains the glorious Queen of Light. And her victory was the ultimate. And in the end, we were pardoned. And it was just a beautiful unfolding. And I saw that the light of God always wins, because I am that light of God. You are that light of God, and we all are. And once you focus on nothing but that illumined spark within you, and you surrender your life to God, everything will be given to you. Everything you need for the path to walk it. But you have to be loyal and faithful. And even though you don't know, it's much better for you to say, I don't know, than to say, I think that I know, but you actually don't. Remember always the 4 levels of knowing based on Osho. I don't know that I actually know, right? You're asleep. The second level is, I think that I know. You know, that's kind of like self-righteous, ignorant. The third level is, I know that I actually don't know. It's surrendering. Actually surrender. You know? And the last level is, I know that I know. Because your knowing came from God once you surrender that final step, which was, I actually know that I don't know. You know, and with all my knowledge and all my power of galactic understanding and law and principles and all, what's happening in the physical and how things turn out, I had to be humble and say, I know that I really don't know. And then God gave me everything. All the answers, all the clarity, all the bigger picture. And when I saw the bigger picture, my beloveds, it's glorious. We don't see it as we walk our day-to-day earthly lives. We don't. You know, 10 years ago, I was not a person I am now, and I'm happy this is so. And I've chosen the right path for myself. You know, my path maybe could have led me otherwise and elsewhere. But I said, no, 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 this is my calling. I didn't yet know what it will be. I just had this pull. I was being called, and I listened to that pull. And I answered the calling. And many of you will get those callings as well during your lifetime. And many maybe coming lifetimes. And all you will have to do is pick up the phone and, answer to God and say, yes, I'm here. And it's not necessarily going to be difficult. People say, but it's so difficult to follow this path. No, the only reason why it's difficult is because there's so much darkness working against that. It wouldn't have to be difficult if there were no darkness, but unfortunately it is. And we have to accept it. And we need to see ourselves more powerful in the darkness. Because the moment you're with God and you really know what divine intelligence is and what it can birth and create, then you always have everything. It's more than money. You don't always need money to survive in this reality. I mean, it is important, but it's not the ultimate. All you need to know is knowing the faith and trust in God and what God is and what God can do and always will do if your faith is loyal, truly devoted. So that's my legacy, and I invite you to listen to the voice of where your legacy is leading you. So instead of being boastful and argumentative, and sometimes people get like that, that's just my life. It's between me and God, and yeah, there's a butterfly. And when it comes to you, that's what you should be focused about and focused upon, how you would live your best life in surrendering that life to the power and nature of God as the ultimate law of divine love. Thank you for listening today, and I do recommend the cards, but don't shoot the messenger in case you don't like them. I do, but that's just my humble opinion, as always. And I will see you on the other side. Last few days of sunshine. I mean, sun always comes, I know. But for now, for the summer. So I'm sending you those last few summer vibes here from our beautiful, magical alpine river space. I'll see you next time, as always. Love, wisdom, and power, and never forget who you are. You are God. I love you, and stay safe. Until next time, bye for now.